Welcome back to the Mikey Z TV podcast. I'm Mikey Z. And today I'm speaking with Ceasar Lopez, owner of Rockabilly's Barbershop, finest fade this side of the Mississippi. We discuss the ways he's had to adapt his business with tech and trends to stay current and market in entirely new ways. A true master of his craft and honorary shrink. For show notes and any additional links mentioned in episodes, visit mikeyz.com for more information. Please enjoy my conversation with Ceasar Lopez. This is episode 3 of the Mikey Z TV podcast. Enjoy. Welcome. How you doing today, brother?
Good,
Thanks for coming on the podcast, dude.
I appreciate it, man. We've been talking about this.
We've been talking about it a lot, yeah. So and you know, just to kind of let everybody know, I've been on the hunt for a great barber for I'd say years, and just so happened through kind of word of mouth and the grapevine of meeting certain people from bar scene.
Right.
My fiance actually had spotted 2 dudes. They walked into the bar, super nice guys, whatever. Clearly just got a haircut. She looks at him and is like, "Yo, where do you get your haircut?" And both these dudes turn around like cheesing, like super like pumped that anybody would even ask about their hair. But they pointed us to you, and I've been going to you since. So it's been a pretty rad little connection made.
Heck yeah.
Barbers, man. Once you get one, hold on. Don't let go. Let's get started. So, Ceasar Lopez of Rockabilly's Barbershop. And
yes,
for
sir.
anybody who doesn't know where you're located, it's off 60 and Stapley.
Yeah, 60 and Stapley.
Right next to BRI for beer nerds.
Exactly.
Yep.
I love that place right there.
Yeah, super tasty
Dude,
stuff.
They've been great with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you market with them, or do you have anything like in their window? Or
Not yet. I'm working my way there.
Maybe this will help. Maybe we'll get you a little traction there.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, if you're hearing this.
Yeah. Like, work on it, Matt. Let's do this for him.
Let's do this.
Let's jump right into the first one. So I got a couple questions here for you that we'll jump into. When did you decide you wanted to be a barber?
I don't think I ever, I was more pushed into it. I think I was like maybe 14, and this lady who now in hindsight thinking about it, I'm like, I don't think I ever tipped the lady, and that's probably why she messed up my head.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I got out of the chair, and I was just like, I can't go to school like this.
Right.
So I didn't go to school for like 4 days.
Right.
My pops finally gets the call, and he's like, hey, why aren't you going to school? I'm like, well, look at my head. He's like, dude, that's stupid. And he cussed me out, all that stuff.
Of course.
So then, weeks later, it was like, hey, I need to get another cut, Pops. And he's like, well, I'm not paying for you to get a messed up cut, so figure it out.
Right.
I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like 13, 14. That's like me asking my kid to figure it out. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But he showed up with some old rusty pair of clippers somebody gave him from work.
Right.
And I started getting a little better. And I actually wanted to get into automotive. But when I moved out here from California in 99, 2000, like I worked at Circle K, Tempe Diablo Stadium, selling beer and, all that stuff. But I was like, nah, I need to fall back on something that I can do literally anywhere around the world.
Right. Right.
So
well, it's definitely a trait that does not go, out of style. That's for sure.
Nope.
Who are your greatest aesthetic inspirations? Were there certain people that you kind of aspired to go in the footsteps of once you really got into the craft, or was this something that you just kind of had your own swag with it?
Arizona really didn't have something or someone to like look up to.
Right.
It took me maybe 2-3 months to actually find a job as a barber, because most people didn't want to hire somebody straight out of barber school. They don't know.
Sure.
They don't know if they're going to mess up their clientele.
Right.
A buddy of mine who works at an all-black barbershop goes, hey, man, why don't you come talk to the owner, and then maybe you guys can work something out, and later on, if you don't like it, you can move on. Right. And so I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. So I went and checked it out. The guy's name is Mikey, and he sold me on it, man. He's a salesman. He's like, dude, this barbershop literally right across the street, 200 yards away, just shut down. it was a Hispanic shop. We're going to get an influx of all these Hispanics in,
Right.
that, you know, and you can get those guys.
Right.
Because I knew nothing about cutting like black folks' hair.
Right. Sure.
And so then I was like, yeah, you're right. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I don't think I cut anybody with straight hair for the first like 2 months I was there, man.
Right.
And so after that, you know, you start kind of knowing some people or talking to some people, you know, networking and stuff like that. And on the East Valley, there was really only maybe a handful of barbershops that were like known since like the 50s or
Right.
even into the 90s, you know?
Right.
You had like Joe's Barbershop, been around, I believe, since like 53 or something.
Yeah, they're
like
ride
that.
or die.
Dude, they've been for a minute. You know, further out east was like I forget the name of the other one. Then there's like Sully's on Southern that's been around as well since like 2000 or 2001, and you know, a couple other shops. So I really didn't see anybody, and social networking wasn't really the thing. So I couldn't just like look up, you know, barbers worldwide.
Right.
And I just kind of, in a sense, came up the ranks with those guys that now they're known, and I'm like just trying to start over again.
Hey, you know what, dude? Like, that's the thing is, like, clearly your cuts caught, you know, my girl's eye, and, you know, everybody that we just did a little bit of like social tagging with each other the other day, and I got so many
Really?
comments based on like that fade, though. You know, like, it's the best I've ever gotten, dude.
Wow.
I am
Appreciate
very always blown away by it.
Thank you.
Jumping into this question too. So on the heels of the social media comment just then, you know, clearly back in the day it wasn't as upfront and personal for what you're doing, but now that the business has kind of like moved into where website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever
Right.
other social means are there, what do you feel like that has had as far as like an impact on, you know, the cosmetology world and like barber and like all that kind of side of things? Has that done well for your business? Do you think that there's some negatives to it? What are your thoughts there?
Like I said, so when I started, there wasn't any of it.
Right.
Right. We had like MySpace,
Right.
and we won't talk about that. But
Yeah.
anyways, so then so I had I had a barbershop. I had another
Right.
shop. It was on Dobson and Elliott. I had it for about 2.5, 3 years. Through a series of unfortunate events, you know, divorce and losing the house, literally the kids, my car, the shop, everything, the business. I took a step back and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to do this. For a few months, I was working at a buddy's shop in Scottsdale. And then I was like, dude, like I have to stop. I can't.
Right.
I was like, barbering, I just can't do it right now. So I actually went into behavioral health. But then when I came back, what was this? 2020.
Okay.
At the end of 2020, in October or so, I was out for 3 years, 4 years maybe.
Right.
And it's a whole other beast. Like
Right.
it like I'm trying to catch up
Right.
to where it's like I'm trying to learn social media as far as Instagram, Facebook, you know, all those platforms, but from a business standpoint, not, I'm going to post something cutesy.
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah. Felt cute. Might delete later. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I
Yeah.
did a lot of those, you know. But
Yeah,
no.
yeah. I mean, so you mentioned the behavioral health technician. So, like, what aspects of that got you into that world? Because that was definitely a pretty big beeline for you from cutting hair for quite a while to then getting into that profession. Yeah, what you've told me that your wife is heavily involved with that still,
Yeah.
or that's still her profession, right?
Well, she's still in a behavioral health company, but
Gotcha.
she's now like getting into like accounts payable just recently. So she's learning like the QuickBooks and all this
Gotcha.
stuff. Not for like a little business, for
Right.
like
Yeah.
a business that's putting out, you know, $50,000 checks to pay off things, you know,
Right, sure.
on a weekly. And so I got into it. My brother was in it for a few years, and he's like, dude, like there's a place here for you. You're great with people. You know, I mean, obviously you're my brother, so you know I'll get you in.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, just give me the interview. You don't need to get me in. So I'm talking to them, or going back and forth emails and stuff like that. Finally going for the interview. The lady that's interviewing me, Trisha, she's like, oh my gosh, you're Daniel's brother. I look almost identical to my brother.
Okay.
But he's a little taller and thinner. and no hair, and I still got hair. But, and so then she's like, so he tells me you've been a barber at the time now for like 15, 16 years. Like, what makes you, like, no offense, but what makes you think you can get into behavioral health? And I'm like, well, I've thought about this a lot. And I was like, and the honest truth is, being a barber, you got to put on many hats.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be a fashion expert in a sense.
Sure.
A mentor,
sure.
Everything, man. And people tell you, secrets and you learn, behaviors of people where you're like, dude, are you okay today? Yeah, I'm good, bro, I'm good. And it's like, dude, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, you seem tense, bro.
Yeah.
And then it's just spew out, oh, man, this and this and that is happening, da-da-da.
That kind of leads me into what my next my next question was going to be for you was, the BHT background, being a barber, clearly that plays, kind of hand in hand as far as being part shrink with people. I mean, you and I have very deep conversations when I'm in the chair, so I can only imagine like that goes across the board for all your clients, right?
I try to, man. I try to. And I think when people have been with me, maybe, they say after 7 haircuts, like they're hooked.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I've heard over years. Like if you get a client in by the 7th one, if he's still there with you, you've got him for life.
Right.
And so it's, dang, I forgot your question for a second there.
part shrink, like, how everybody, how every one of your clients is, I'm sure, just like a basket case and from time to time.
Oh yeah. All of them, man. And I mean, and I've had it everything from, we get into arguments, debates or whatever. And sometimes you do have to sever the relationship with a client.
Sure.
And sometimes that's like breaking up with a crazy ex-girlfriend. Like,
sure.
They're just like, sense. No, bro, you can't do this to me. Like you said, how long it took you to find a good barber.
Right.
And they repeat that back to you. Bro, it took me years to find you. And I'm over here acting like a diva,
Right.
Nope, sorry.
Yeah, nope, can't do it.
But, and then I've had that aspect. And then I've friendships that have been with me now for almost 20 years.
Makes
cutting
sense.
hair. And some that I've met recently who I know is going to last, that much because, you just click.
Right.
You're like, man, I can trust that dude. Like, that's a good dude.
Right.
And you have the good with the bad. Sometimes you meet some a-holes and sometimes, it is what it is. You try not to let it get to you.
Right.
And then sometimes things are tragic. I've lost a couple clients over the years.
Sure.
Whether it was like, car accident, shot, or cancer, and stuff like that. And, these are people that I build relationships with, man.
Right.
Where it's like, I know their kids' names or I know their wives' names or what they, oh, dude, I just bought this car. Like they were,
Right.
Like there's some emotional investment into each one of my clients.
Right.
And so with the behavioral health, everything just the same. It's just building relationships and getting to know people. And I've learned over the years that you can be the best barber in the world. You can't hold a conversation or build a relationship.
Right.
Clients ain't coming back.
Right.
Or you can have the best conversations and, know how to build a relationship and you're just all around a good dude and your haircuts might not be as great.
Right.
But people are still going to go to you.
Right.
Because of those other attributes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
I mean, not to name names, but the lady that I was going to before I found you, she did an okay job, but I would say that I was paying more, getting less of an outcome that I wanted, and kind of putting up with it because it was the best that I could find. And to be honest, the conversation wasn't that great. So it was kind of like a lose-lose for me a little bit in a certain situation. So it's kind of one of those things like when you do find someone that you kind of have like that, friendship kind of approach to it at one point. Because, I mean, when I show up, I'm like stoked to see you. It's like, cool. little sesh with Ceasar. Let's do it. It's always good. I always like to ask every guest a little bit about like their morning rituals. Like being an entrepreneur, you started up your own business, you get going every day. Are you a coffee person? Do you have to wake up and get a cup in your system? What's your daily routine, and what time do you like to get up?
Oh man.
Because I'm not a fan of the 5 a.m. club. I'm just not.
I
do like mornings, like earlier rise.
I would have been better off you asking me what I like to do at night before going to sleep.
There you go. Well, we can go both ways.
I'm a morning person. I am not. But once I'm up, I'm up.
Yeah.
I really don't typically need coffee unless I'm like really struggling.
Well, your hours are 9 to 6, right?
9 to 6.
Monday through Friday.
Right. I take my kids to school in the morning, or my pops does in the morning. So by the time I'm free to leave to the shop is about 9. But if I don't have an appointment at 9, I might just sleep in a little longer.
Yeah, fair enough.
And get there by 10. And my wife leaves before me. You know, she goes to work at like 7:45, 8.
Okay.
And, you know, she's the one that sometimes most of the time she'll come up. Bye, babe. Gives me a kiss while I'm still laying down.
Yeah, right. That's been my fiance recently. I mean, she's for these she's in her last little bit of nursing school, right? So she's just about to graduate, which we're both very excited for. But I mean, she's out the door at like 4:30 in the morning sometimes, and I can't help but not wake up when she's leaving, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I have the gusto to start moving now just because she got me up at 4:30. You know what I mean? I can't. I don't know if I could do it. But
I will say this on that note, that the times that I know that I have gotten up early,
right?
I know that it just, I can get more done.
Sure.
So I'm more motivated to actually do more, like post more, research this or this and that, and not necessarily just kind of lay around, you know. So
so let me ask you that. So you say you wish you asked evening. What's your evening routine? What do you wind down at the end of the day with?
My evening routine. So kids go to bed. I don't put them to bed. My kids are 13 and 17 my middle one's about to be 17 soon. So they just say, you know, they scream good night from the other side of the house because they're all grown now. Lay down with my wife. My wife typically goes to sleep before me. Sometimes I'll be on my phone, like looking up stuff or replying back to clients or setting up appointments or rescheduling appointments. But if I have a few minutes, I'll sit down, put on the VR goggles.
Okay.
And I'll play poker with like people from anywhere, I guess.
That's cool.
So sometimes that's kind of cool. And then sometimes I'll just sit there and fish in VR. Right so my wife will wake up and just see me doing some crazy hand gestures.
Gone fishing. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly.
That's fair. That's cool, dude. So really, with kind of being a barber for as long as you have, you know, you've bounced around a little bit with professions and whatnot, but I'm always interested to hear, you know, from a younger generation coming up, because there's a lot of kids that are super interested in getting into barber as a trait and bringing that on as a profession. Yeah. Do you co-sign like barber school? Do you co-sign, like which path would you go if you could almost do like an internship with somebody directly? Or come up from the ground up by yourself and try and learn and get your foot in the door with a shop like you kind of did? Would you tell someone to go to barber school? Like, what would you say the path for someone young coming up would be?
You know, a few years ago, like before I went into behavioral health for a little bit, barbering had gotten like romanticized for some reason. Where all these guys that looked like they were amazing barbers, they would have the handlebar mustache, the big beard, like nicely edged up. I seen one guy, I think he still does it, and he's a pretty good barber, but he had like the Cruella de Vil kind of thing, like one side blonde, one side black, and it would go down to like his eyebrows, his mustache, one side of the beard.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? He's an interesting looking kid. And then I think a lot of them just kind of realize like it's not as pretty as you think, because you got to put in the footwork. Like whether you like to or not, you're at Circle K, you're at church, you're at whatever. Hey man, let me give you this card real quick. Come check me out. Right. You know what I mean? And I don't think a lot of the kids wanted to do that, man. Especially nowadays, you look at them; they're antisocial. They don't want to talk. They don't want to build relationships. They don't want to speak up. You know what I mean? Right. So the ones that have made it to now are the ones that are kind of leading the whole social media aspect of it. Right. So that's great. But us old guys, we got to try to catch up. Right. And then the new guys that are coming in, there's here in the state of Arizona within the last 3 years, I believe. They switched it up. So it used to have to be you go only to barber school, be taught there, you get your 1,500 hours, you pay them a ridiculous amount of, I think now it's some schools are like $18,000. Wow. For 1,500 hours. If you have a life, that's about a year and 3 months. You know what I mean? A year and a half, year and 3 months. That's a lot of dough for sure. And so they just switched it up, though, to where now you can do internship. So my goal would be get the shop to where it's self-sustaining, where if I wanted to, I wouldn't have to cut. You know what I mean? I'd have enough barbers in there that I trust, that I know, are kind of following my footsteps, per se, or whatever, or my dream. And then be able to bring in one or two, young guys that I can kind of groom to how I want. Right. So you can do like an internship. The internship, I believe they pay you. Or no, I'm sorry, the other way around. You pay them, but it's like you have to pay the minimum wage. Gotcha. And then the other way was they pay you, and they basically clean and do everything that the other guy would do, but just, being paid. Right. That also depends, obviously, on the barbershop, of how much revenue they're bringing in to be able to, do that. But eventually what I'd wanted to do is, like I spoke to you before, is open up a barber school with the same, things that I've learned. Because you really come out of barber school knowing a lot of things, just not how to cut hair. Sure. So it doesn't make sense to me. Like, right. Yes, I get the, the written stuff, knowing, the diseases of the skin and your scalp and the different, types of hair, all that. We get it. But you're not going to use 95% of the stuff that you learn. Right. So the other things that you're going to learn as a barber is how to build relationships. Right. How to talk to somebody, how to, suggest, hey man, your head's a little flat on top. If we give you maybe a little rounder cut, or, if you have knowing what looks good on a client, right? Like that type of stuff, they don't teach you. You just have to learn. Right. And so the other aspect of it is what I've said before is like, I want to incorporate behavioral health into barbering. Not so much where they are like therapists and stuff like that, but no, just be able to connect with people a little bit more. Right. You know what I mean? And generally make a good barber, make a good person, to put out there, and not just some punk kid that just wants to make a bunch of dough.
You're currently in a building that, to me, I think it's a really cool layout, I guess is the way to say it. But it's a single building with, I don't even know how many pods are essentially in there, but small units per everybody, and it's based in cosmetology and hairdressing and all that kind of vibe in that building. So it's specific to that niche. Yes. Is that like a common thing that you're finding as far as like places to rent out?
It's becoming common within the last couple of years. I think because of the coronavirus and all that crap.
That makes sense, yeah.
A lot of guys, a lot of shops, I should say, at first they were telling them, you can't open. You have to stay closed. And then it was, okay, you can open. And then literally 2 weeks later, it'd be like, no, you got to close. Right. So a lot of people were going to people's homes for haircuts or vice versa. And all these little suite places, because you need a code to get in the salon suites, and you could only, sometimes I only have one client there. It just worked out better that way. So a lot of the younger guys, they've got a following, or they've got enough clientele where they can do like the solo thing in a salon suite. But yeah, most of the salon suites are like beauty based, laser, lipo, cosmetology, nails, all that stuff.
Right.
I'm fortunate enough to that the one that I'm in right now, I'm the only barber.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and my shop looks pretty.
I think so. I think it's a pretty good look.
It's a sexy beast.
Which to
I
just
thank
a
my
comment
wife for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Little prop for her. Rockabilly. Let's talk about that. Is that kind of a passion of yours? The rockabilly scene.
It is, man. I think in the 90s, like mid 90s, this whole like swing, big bang swing, came out, and it was like, Cherry Poppin' Daddies and, these songs, Zoot Zoot Riot, all these songs, man. The Mask came out, and the Mask, they're doing all that stuff. So all that was like, mid 90s. And then along with that came like the revision of like rock and roll, or the old rockabilly.
Sure.
That spawned off from the 80s, kind of retro-ish. You had, Brian Setzer, or, The Clash, or, little bands like that. They were kind of doing their own thing. And then it just evolved into the 90s. It became a car culture,
Right.
So you had, those of us that...
The rat rod thing. And
yeah, those of us that weren't really into like the low riders, but we liked the hot rods, low and dirty.
Right.
And those are the rat rods.
A little bit of rust on them.
Yeah,
That's always been one of my favorite like looks.
Oh yeah, man!
I've always said too. I'm like, and now they're not so cheap to try and find like an old truck to do that too. It's impossible now.
No.
But there's a couple of rad shops like Roadster Speed Shop. I think out of like Texas. I think they're based out of, but they do like entirely new chassis that you can basically just grab whatever body and bolt it on the top, and it's basically like a brand new Corvette underneath an old truck.
Yeah,
like
I've
crazy
cool. Like that, yeah.
It would be so cool. But that's that scene where it's like, okay, I get it. I just don't want to break down on the side of the freeway just because I like this old car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's personal opinion there. But
yeah.
But I mean, the rockabilly thing for you, I mean, clearly your branding, your logo behind it, everything that I've seen, it's definitely catered to that rockabilly swag.
Right. It's not like I said, it's not a very like big community or very popular.
Right.
But the interactions that I've had, whether it be, going to see, Big Sandy or Reverend Horn Heat or, Brian Setzer, I've seen him a few years back. Like, I don't know, it was weird. It's like, I've been to like, not to bash on other cultures or anything like that, but like, I've been to like the country type of events and the hip hop type of events and the Hispanic type of music type of events. And there's always like a kind of sketch, like I'm not either welcome or they're not welcome. It's weird. It's a weird dynamic because you get different kinds of people.
Right.
Literally, the rockabilly scene is what I was trying to explain to my wife years ago when we first met, and she finally seen it when we went to like a little car show and stuff. The camaraderie, everybody's real nice, everybody's like supportive.
Right.
Like, it's not whether you have this hourglass body or have hair.
Sure.
You know what I mean? As a dude, it's just everybody's just like really nice.
Right.
And I think that just made me fall in love with it more, with the culture of rockabilly. And so I always said if I ever started my own shop, I was going to name it that. And so
it definitely fits you and the whole swag of the shop too, for sure.
It. Yeah.
Have you gotten clientele from that kind of scene based on being a barber that way and going to events, let's say just like networking that way?
So I haven't been able to go to any events since I opened up again, but definitely when I had my other shop before, I would go to all these little events, whether it was, at the Five and Dime, they had a car show or something, or, a band was in town or whatnot, and I'd wear, my Rockabilly shirt and stuff like that. So I'd have clients that, would start to follow me and stuff like that. One guy, I had moved shops when I opened up my first shop, and somebody he knew was like, hey, this guy just opened up a shop, bro. I know you lost your barber, this and that. He's like, he can cut a pomp. A pompadour is like, the whole Rockabilly style, right? And my buddy was like, what does he look like? And he's like, he's short Mexican dude, kind of chubby. He has like the little Kango hats all the time. He's like, is his name Ceasar? He's like, yeah, I think so. He's like, I've been looking for that fucker for 2 years.
That's super funny.
And so then he literally shows up the very next day after work, not for a haircut, but just to see that if it was me,
Right.
And so I see him pull up like just screeching, and I'm like, what the hell? And I look out, I look outside, and I just see this big old dude, because he's a big man, and he comes right in and he goes, fucker. And I was like, what's up, Ray?
I found you.
Yeah. He's like, bro, I've been looking for you for 2 years since you left that other shop. Those a-holes wouldn't tell me where you went, this and that. And I'm like, dude, I'm right here. And so, I've had people like, and I say that because he has a huge pump, like where it's like, if you know Ray, like, him for his hair.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And his pump, I'm not joking, is a good 9-10 inches off of his forehead.
Oh, goodness.
It's massive.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a handful for you too.
And that actually, that brings me to, I wanted to link you up with him, man. So he does, he's DJ'd over the years, but not what you think, obviously, I'm a Barbie girl with, the Eurythmics or something.
Sure.
No. It's like old Rockabilly stuff, old country stuff, Hank Williams kind of things and stuff like that. But he calls himself the Copper State King. Okay. And so I'm going to talk to you more about him, and then I'll show you some stuff on his Instagram, stuff like that. He's a cool ass dude to talk to.
We'll have to connect with him. That sounds like an interesting story already.
Yeah, and he's an instructor at what's the automotive school, the big one? UTI.
Oh, UTI. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Very cool. What does he teach anything specific there?
I believe it's like diesel and something.
Okay, so he's a badass.
Yeah, he's a badass.
The diesel game is
but he
kind of a dying
knows
art.
It all. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
You go to his house, he's got 3 engines on cherry pickers. He's like, just kind of messing around today.
Just tinkering, no big deal. Yeah. And meanwhile, they're like pumping out like 700 horse easy or something. Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he's an interesting guy, man. I'm telling you, you're gonna have to meet him. And then you turn around and it's like, dude, why do you have an upholstery machine? And not like a little cutesy little, plastic upholstery machine. No, this dude have like a upholstery machine from like early 1900s.
Of course.
That he literally, I'm not joking, literally has a little Asian lady comes over the house to use it whenever she needs it, but he gets dibs on like stuff that he needs to get done first.
That's amazing. That's super cool.
So I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna hook you up with him.
Yeah, it sounds like another solid little episode here.
Yeah, dude.
We'll have to meet up with this guy. Let's talk about where we can find you, where we can reach you. I know the website is rockabillysbarbershop.com. Yep. Right? Yep. Instagram, Facebook, what are handles?
Instagram would be rockabillys_barbershop.
Okay.
I believe the same thing for like Facebook. Everything's going to be Rockabilly's Barbershop or Rockabillys_barbershop. I think on Snapchat, I'm like Billy Barber 13.
Okay.
But I heard that this next month on like the 11th or the 12th, Snapchat's going to allow you to change the your handle name.
Oh, okay.
So they hadn't let you before. But
so
you can only change it once a year. You're going to modify
it to get it all lined up?
Yeah, so I can have everything just rockabillysbarbershop.com. My email is Caesar@rockabillysbarbershop.com.
So you got your email going through the website?
Yep, nice. Email, the website.
And then I saw a post that you just started doing house calls too.
Yeah, so I've never marketed myself to do house calls.
I thought that was a little bit abnormal for you, but...
Yeah, it's just, I like my family time.
That's fair.
As a barber, you've always worked that Tuesday through Saturday And that's had me miss lots of family events, whether it's with my brothers or my kids, because they want to go and, camp Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I got to work Friday and Saturday.
Right.
So I missed a lot of stuff. So I said, if I open back up, I'm only going to be open Monday to Friday. So right now I'm only open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on appointments only. But that also gives me the opportunity, to work if there's nothing going on. So
sure.
Some Saturdays I might be there, just, get a couple of folks in. And then I've got one client that kind of started me up again on house calls. Just this older gentleman calls me and he's like, hey, can you come give me a haircut and a shave? And I'm like, yeah, sure, sir. I was like, it scares people away when you say how much, but in the barber industry, it's like, it's basic, $100 house call.
Right.
Anybody that else wants a haircut while there, it's $50.
Oh, that's nice.
And so, this guy calls me and I tell him that. He doesn't even bat an eye. He's like, yeah, when can you be here? I'm like, okay. So I go see him, talking to him and everything. And the first time he seemed like he's like real sick. He's telling me he's on dialysis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. The second time I came around, he was like joking, but like his humor is like right down my alley.
Right.
And we were just laughing, like connecting, just having a good old time. And he's like, hey man, I'm wondering why you never changed or you never named your barbershop differently. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, as with the name like Ceasar, you would think like, something of power, stuff like that.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I never really thought about it. I was like, but then again, I never really liked my name because looking up the root of the name is just one to have been cut out of the womb. Caesarea. You know what I mean? To me, there's not much, there's not too much power there,
That's funny, but fair.
And so he's like, no, man. He's like, why don't you call it Hail Caesar? Like you're calling somebody to come to you. And I'm like, dude, that is a great idea. He's like, yeah, solid. Man. He goes, maybe for your house calls, you can call it that. I said, you know what, dude? The next time I come, I'm going to make you a T-shirt. I'll make a logo, and we're going to do that. So like 3-4 days later, man, I was like, I couldn't get it out of my head. So I was like, I got to do it. So it took me like 2 days to do it. I did this little, has a bust of Caesar, the emperor.
Sure.
It says, Rockabilly's Barbershop, Hail Caesar, and then it has the number on it, something kind of simple, but it catches your eye.
Nice.
And so I'm going to start kind of brand myself a little bit on house calls, try to do maybe at least 1 or 2 a week.
Nice.
Just something, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's a solid in for you. I mean, and yeah. Are you, I would imagine you're limiting like the radius of which these house calls will be performed, right? So it's like within a certain zip code or something. Yeah. Well,
within, neighboring or touching cities. So you've got obviously like in Mesa, you got Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert,
You're kind of like the 202, 101 loop kind of vibe is your boundaries.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Exactly. So from the 10 to the 202 to the, what would that be? Like the 202 north and then 202 south?
Yeah.
So that whole loop. Yeah.
That's a smart cutoff for you.
Yeah.
Keeps it within driving distance. Because if you're spending more in gas to get to the appointment,
right.
What's the point?
If they want to, call me to Glendale and, well,
right.
As long as you got the money.
Yeah. Just, additional mileage occurred.
Right.
Dude, I really appreciate you coming on today. This was fun to chop it up with you.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for a while, so I'm glad we worked it out and got you in here. Again, it's rockabillysbarbershop.com.
Yep.
Caesar's the man. Hail Caesar for a house call.
Thank you.
All the good stuff. We'll get this posted up. This episode's coming out on a Thursday, so every episode that I'm popping out are on Thursdays.
Okay.
So we'll be talking, but let's connect with, your buddy. I'd love to make that connection. Yeah, and I'm starting to feel like I'm ready. So I'll be hitting you up here soon.
Yeah, I'm there.
All right, brother.
Give you
I appreciate
nice bowl
you.
Cut.
Yeah, right. Yeah. just right at the ears.
Just right at the ears.
Just nice straight. If you've got a bowl that fits, that's great. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you,
Absolutely,
man. Thanks
bro.
for for the opportunity here.
Of course. We'll do this again. I'd love to have you back on too.
Yeah. All right, it'd be great.
All right. Cheers, bro.
All right, brother.
Thank you for listening to episode 3 of the Mikey Z TV podcast. If you like this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcast, follow on Anchor and Spotify, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. That's Mikey Z TV. Visit MikeyZ.com for show notes on this episode, where links are made available so you can find more about my guest. Once again, thank you so much for listening or watching this episode. Until the next episode, I will see you in the next one. Cheers.